Welcome to the fifth and last lecture on the series, A Post-Pandemic Perspective, Reflections. Today we're very honored to have Professor Jiang Wu as our speaker and Professor Yu Chen as our translator. I just give a short introduction to Professor Jiang Wu. Professor Jiang Wu is just retired from Carnegie Mellon University as a distinguished professor. And he went there several years ago to build a brand new department. And in a matter of 5 years, that department has become national, one of the national top ranking department in the country, which is very, very difficult to do when you start some department from fresh. Prior to CMU, he was the vice president at Boeing. And during his tenure there, he was the first person that developed the computer-directed design and development of Boeing 777, the most successful commercial airplane in the world. So, so we are very, very honored to have Professor Wu with us.
Dr. Chen, we cannot hear you.
You can hear me? Okay.
They cannot hear the Chinese, not you. We can hear you. Oh, okay. It's in the Chinese one. They cannot hear.
Can I hear me?
Yeah, yes. Okay, now.
Okay, now.
Okay. So Chinese room, okay, right? Okay, all right. Thank you. During his tenure at CMU, he has developed a new approach to teaching, in the sense that he posts his lecture online. The student has to study that. And during the class, it's discussion with application to real problems. All right, so he'll probably share some of those tonight. Professor Yu Chen has a PhD in computer science from Switzerland. And she is now currently an assistant professor at the business school at San Jose State University. Last couple of years, she has developed some very innovative educational program, and what she called a innovation farm, where a student organized for innovation ways to do things. For example, some students will help homeless students, right? Some other people do some other things. And it's become so good. And she also got major officials from large companies to be the judge. Her program got so popular that last year ABC News made a special trip to visit her program and broadcast it. So we're very, very happy that Professor Yu Chen is with us tonight. The topic of this evening is very interesting. It's called The Future of Education, a Post-Pandemic Perspective. So without further ado, I will have Professor Jiang Wu take over.
Thank you, Dr. Ye, and thank you, Dr. Yu Chen, for the translation. And thank you, Dharma Master Yin Zhang, for inviting me to participate in the forum. I'd like to make a correction first. My job at Boeing is a chief engineer, not vice president. So I just want to make sure we do the corrections here. Let's start with the presentations. Everybody know the pandemic has changed everything, but the most affected is the school. And we have many schools in the US and also Europe closed. And many students have to stay home and study online. But by the time the pandemic is over, hopefully say next year, some students will return to school, but many may not. This is very, very important that we have to really pay attention, because I read some statistics and it bothered me a lot. We said, look at this staggering impact on global education. In the US today, we're talking about, worldwide today, we're talking about over 1 billion students who has been affected by this pandemic. But it is only the beginning, because we will see that before the pandemic, it is estimated that about 1/3 of the young people will not have the skill or the qualification to participate in the global workforce, because the current education is out of date. The current education is really have a lot of problem that has been talked about, but have no solution for that. The pandemic will make it worse, because it estimates about half of the world young people may not have the skill to make a living, and many of them will not go back to school, but they have to quit school to support the family because the current economics. Everybody estimate and everybody predict that by the time the pandemic is over, we will go into a crisis economic everywhere globally. And many families cannot afford an education. And many young people will have to quit school and go to work. So this is one of the things we will have to pay attention. Before we look at the current education, let's look at some change that is happened today. The pandemic has forced some change, such as online education. Many schools closed and students have to study online. But we also see that many businesses are also moving online too. We are seeing a lot of people working at home. We see a lot of companies are shifting for their employee to work remotely. Many, many people are buying things online right now. And study at home create a lot of stress, especially for young students. So what do we think that after the pandemic, what will happen? What happened? I believe that after the pandemic, many of these changes will become permanent. You can see that today, many business, according to the Wall Street Journal, about 57% of small and medium business will allow their employee to work remotely. And that is a new trend. Before, there's a lot of doubt about people working offline. But then today, a lot of companies begin to see the productivity significantly increase when people work at home. So many companies today are allowing telecommunicating as a way of working. For example, Facebook right now are hiring a lot of remote workers all over the world. Google have a flexible work. You can work at home or you can work in the office in the future. Maybe come to work a few days a week. but a lot of time you can work at home. Twitter and Square say that their employee can work at home permanently. So this trend has become ingrained and will become permanent. And because of that, more and more people are beginning to relocate to some area so they can work remotely. There's a pros and cons on working remotely, but I believe this change will become permanent. There are some benefits of allowing people to work at home. For example, there will be less traveling time rather than some people have to drive to work, maybe an hour every day, or maybe 2 hours every day. Now those 2 hours for traffic, they can stay home and work, and therefore productivity may increase. From the company point of view, there are also benefits because they don't have to spend a lot of money for facility, for renting office hours. And of course, we can reduce pollution significantly. That also helps. There's a lot of online courses are offering today. And during the pandemic, Coursera and edX has reported that their student online learning increased about 400 to 500%. That's a significant change. But if you look into more of those details, we saw that the student from another country, basically about 65% of them complete their course online, as compared with the US, only about 23%. But I do believe that online learning will become permanent in the future for some of the students who need to have the skill to make a living. Microsoft has predicted that in the next 5 years, there will be 150 million of jobs available. So look at the trend, we can see that there's a tremendous opportunity, especially for the people who have the knowledge and the skill to participate in this global environments, working environments. So we can see that trend, but what happened to the education system? I believe that education system should understand that they are really, really dangerous, outdated. They have to see this opportunity to make some change to meet the demand of the 21st century. As an educator, we have been discussed about the change in education for many years, but there's a huge resistance to change. People will talk about change, not many people know how, and there's a lot of habit. People telling me they've been doing it for years. They don't want to change because they don't know how, and some people don't want to change. So right now, from an education point of view, I believe we are in such a very, very dangerous path. We don't change. Because we do not change, we will not provide the service needed for our students in the future. But again, with the change, there's also opportunity. Where there are danger, there's always opportunity. So, and I believe that in the next 4 or 5 years, the rate of change will significantly accelerate, especially in the area of technology. Today, many students are beginning to familiar with using technology, using laptop, using computer, using online courses. So some of the change has already happened. You cannot say, well, my students do not know how to using technology. Now they have to using technology. And in the future, more and more people will use the technology to support their educations. So I believe that after this pandemic, the students are not going to re-enter the classroom the same way when they left. but I think many of them will return to school with significant knowledge and skill of using technology. But unfortunately, after the pandemic, many students may not go back to school because they had to support the environment. So let's look at what will happen next. If we look at the current education system today, many of the curriculum, many of the way the school teaching today is mostly for the industrial area, for all the agriculture area, but not for the information, especially the Industrial Revolution 4.0. We are not, many education systems are not ready for it. And today, most of the school or most of the education system is really focused on a set of skills, separate by discipline. Many of them are dictated by a board of education, where the board members are mostly academicians. They are not familiar with the need from the industry or society or the technology trend. We've been teaching this kind of curriculum for the past 100 years, and we have not changed. So it is very important for us to begin to prioritize the way we can make change happen. The current education system today are focused more on memorizations and passing tests, are not teaching the student to learn, but teaching the student how to memorize facts and pass tests. And the school measuring the success of a student is based on test score, especially standardized test score. So many students learning how to pass a test and how to achieving high score, but they are not really learning anything. The students today are taught to conform, but not to learning. And those are just a few issues that I have seen happen today in the current education system. Change is difficult. Change is hard. But I believe that today, in the next years or so, in the near future, we will have seen significant change, because I believe students must voice their opinion on what they can be taught in school. I think parents and family need to get together and demand some change. We cannot stay with the status quo. We cannot stay with the current education system that is completely out of date with the current change in society and all the trend. So my view of the future change will be a hybrid model. This hybrid model, that means students will go to school and learn something in school, but then also at home, they also can learn online. So what I did in the past 10 years when I was at Carnegie Mellon is I create a brand new approach to education. I call the active hybrid model. And let me explain it to you. First of all of the lecture and materials, I will videotape that and make them available online. Students are required to watch the video and read those material before they come to class. The classroom of an hour is not enough for learning, but I think the student must spend at least an hour or more at home and study those material, watching the video. Today, many online study, the professor are lecturing on a video, and that is a wrong approach. The video that I take is no more than 20 minutes, because the attention span of the student is usually about 15 minutes, maybe maximum 20. So I do not want to make the video classroom too long to lose their attention. The video is only a summarize of what are the important things students need to learn. basically the objective of the class. The rest of them are material and videotape of some other sources and textbook or reading material that the student need to know. I prefer to use more current issue from newspaper and magazine rather than textbook. Because I wrote textbook before. It took about 2 to 3 years to write a textbook and took another year for the publication. So by the time when the textbook come out, it's only 3 years obsolete. Therefore, I do not want to write textbook. I did have 2 textbooks, but then I do not want to renew that. So I want the student to learn the current issue, the magazine, newspaper, and bring to class for discussion. And so most of the class material will consist of current issue rather than literature. When the student study at home and come to class, the classroom is designed for a very short time for answering question and answer. But I want to devote most of the classroom time for discussion, for teamwork, and collaboration on project. The project are focused on solving real-time problem, not some abstract concept, not about some basic understanding. But the key for the student is they have to come to class ready. In order to make sure that the student will learn the material before they come to class, I will have a short quiz, 5-minute quiz with 2 questions to make sure that the students are learning the material before they come to class. And in class, I will lecture probably 10 minutes just to summarize something. The rest of them is question and answer and collaboration and teamwork. I want the student to learn how to thinking independently. And I want them to learn how to collaborate and work together. So the test and the score and passing the test is based on teamwork, not based on individual achievements. And I want the class to be a community of people learning together, not an individual achievement. So in the team, the score is distributed to a team. Usually a team consists of 4 students or 5 students max. And everybody receives the same score. The team can also judge themselves. If a team member do not participate, the team can vote that person out. So that's a rule that at the beginning of the class, I clearly explained all the rule and my expectation. So I don't want any confusion. The team had the right to vote a member out. If the member was voted out and cannot find another team to accept that, the student will fail the course. And make it very clear at the beginning. So the student understand that. And also one of the key things that for teaching the class is for career planning. Today, career planning is done at the afterthought. When the student complete the education, they go to a career center and start looking for a job. Basically, that is too late. I believe career planning should be done as early as possible. That means a high school student must have a career plan, must know what they want to do for their career. Of course, college students must have a career plan. That is the first thing for freshmen when they come to college to take my class, Introduction to Computer. The first 2 weeks is on career planning. I do believe career planning is very, very important today, because without career planning, everything is just random. And many students go to school with no objective, no goal, no purposes, just hang around. And those are wasting time. So I want to stress career planning as early as possible. To teaching this kind of course, you have to do a lot of assessment. And so in my courses and in my department, we have a weekly quiz, which is a few questions to make sure the student understand, and a monthly test to monitor the progress. So within a matter of week, or maybe month, I know who can continue with the class or who need help. And therefore, we provide TA, teaching assistant, tutoring, and some supporting structure to make sure the student will learning and have the skills in place. And all of that are fully integrated in the model. So I do believe that my view of the future of education is a hybrid model using technology for learning and using classroom for discussion and teamwork. And every class is also a project based when a student are working on solving real work problem based on a project. The project can be a month's project, a very short project, or can be a whole semester project, usually sponsored by a company from the industry. So to want to make sure that a student are doing really solving real life problem. In this kind of model, the role of the student, the teacher, and the parent also change. The role of a student is about learning and developing the skill. I don't expect the student to memorize anything because I told the student almost every information they need. They can Google it. They can find from another source. They don't have to memorize it. And the test is based on their knowledge and the skill, not based on understand concept and fact. So the test is completely different from the traditional test. All of my tests are basically essays and project based, not multiple choice. So I explain clearly to students when they enter my programs is they are there to learn and especially develop the skill for problem solving. In order to do that, I also believe that the role of the teacher is not just transferring the knowledge, because today knowledge is available in multimedia, in Google, in so many sources a student can find. So they don't need to memorize that. They need to read that, understand that. So the job of the teacher is focused mostly on coaching and guiding and especially motivating. I believe the job of the teacher in the future will become more of a coach, like a coaching a sport team, rather than just transferring knowledge. But also the role of the parents is also supporting this new concept, communicating with the students on a regular basis and understanding their progress and their learning, not just checking whether the student doing homework or not, or checking on a test score or checking on the achievement in the school. I think that in this new model, I think the future of education must involve student, parents, and teacher all have to work together. I clearly explained to many parents that you cannot outsource the education to the school and only checking the test score. You have to work with the student on a regular basis, helping them, supporting them, motivating them, and understand their learning, because they are developing the new knowledge and skill for the future. And this is tough, but in order to do that, I have several online meetings with parents. I require the student to participate and the parent to participate. I set the expectation. I clearly explain my expectation and my approach to the student and also to their parents, and ask the parents to do the same. And I told the parent that the future of their student is based on their understanding. Education is a major investment, cannot be outsourced to somebody else or delegate to somebody else. Education must be a jointly collaboration between the school, the student, and the family. And that is my vision of the future. To do this, I know that it is not easy because changing from the old way of educations, which is mostly transferring knowledge and passing tests, to a new vision is difficult. But if we look at the current education system today, we have to look at the future. Today, the global problems are too large and too complex to be solved by one specialized discipline. Therefore, the curriculum had to move rapidly into what I call a transdiscipline. That means a multifaceted discipline integrated together, because these kind of large and complex problems we face today require a special skill and a special education and a special solution. So the transdisciplinary teaching focus on out of the box, beyond the classroom subject, but connect the student to the real world. The student had to understand the issue that facing our society today, ranging from small problem to a very large problem. And that is why I prefer to using current issue in my teaching rather than a traditional textbooks. It requires the student have to work together. In the old education system, students in class compete with each other for a higher grade. In my class, a student had to collaborate with each other to solve real problems. There are no competitions among individuals. Of course, there are competition among team, among group, but no longer an individual achievement, because it's the grade for the class and a passing for the class is based on teamwork, not individual work. So it is very important. And I have been doing that for more than 10 years. And my achievement is all of my students have graduated successfully. Most of them was hired about 6 months to a year before they graduate by the top 5 company. I have more students at Google and Facebook and Microsoft rather than any other professor at Carnegie. And I'm very proud to achieve that. And that is something difficult, but I think with the new way of doing this kind of learning, in the beginning, students don't like that. And many of them complain. But my achievement is not about the complaint, but by the time a student go to work, every 2 or 3 years, that's a lot of them return to the school and thanks me for it, because they have progress so fast, so successful, much better than all the education system. So I do believe that this kind of a vision, this kind of new approach to education can really significantly transform the way students learn, the way we teach, and the way family working together. Because we are facing a significant crisis in our society and in the global today. We have so many things. Like, for example, we're talking about global warming. Everybody talk about it. What can we do to solve global warming? We're talking about ethics in education. And in my class, we don't learn ethics as a separate course. Ethics is integrated in every topic, in every lecture. And how do we teach ethics? Ethics is not a vague concept or a philosophy. Ethics is about understand, awareness, and responsibility. So I explain to the students, when you learn this one, you are doing this kind of thing. You are responsible for your product, for your behavior, and for the future of the usage of whatever thing that you create. We get into a lot of things about responsibility, not just a vague philosophical concept like as all the schools are teaching. So this is also a new way of teaching. So I think that a transdisciplinary teaching integrate many disciplines together. This is not about learning one discipline and another discipline, but this is about integration of multiple disciplines together and solving real life problems. So I have a formula for change that I create, and we're using a lot of that in my class. Change will happen if the degree of dissatisfaction and the vision and the first step combine and integrate is larger than the resistance to change. Change will happen only when we have dissatisfaction, vision, and we take the necessary step to make it happen. Today, a lot of issue we've seen is people are not very happy, but they don't know how and they don't know what. So the vision provide them with the how to and the what. So all they need to do is take the first step to integrate this kind of a vision into reality. And if we can combine all three factors together, and if that factor is larger than the reason to change, change will happen. And I do believe that in the next few years, we will see some change will happen. Because today we live in a special world with a very complex problems that is difficult for a single country, a single individual, or single company to solve that. We have to work together to solve the global problems. And I also strongly believe that education is the best national defense, like Venerable Master Xuanhua was teaching. If we have strong educations, we'll have the best defense possible for any country, any national. So I will end my presentation today. You have any question? I'm open up for questions. Thank you. Any other questions?
There's a question in the chat.
Yes, can you read for me, please?
Yes, Daniel from CTTB asked, is your teaching model just for college students or higher education? Will that work for high school? Since some kids are there for schooling because they have to.
I have taught in mostly college, but I also experiment in the summer with some high school students, and it can be done. The key is to clearly explain to the student about the new approach to learning, and also set your expectation very upfront in the beginning to make sure the student do not confuse, and then slowly integrate the new model into the one. You cannot change overnight. You have to slowly changing, but I think it is doable. I have discussed this concept with a lot of school, including elementary school. and it can be slowly approached and slowly integrate into the current education system. And I think it can work.
Another question, how should we spread this new approach to school widely?
I think that we can make this presentation available, and I'll be glad to meet with any other school and people who are interested. And maybe in the future, we can have maybe a workshop for educator on the approach to this model. I'll be glad to do that and share with you.
So this is, your presentation is really interesting. You talk about the future, about the change, about transdisciplinary education. Now, how is, how is the transdisciplinary education different from normal education? In the sense of how
first of all,
you have to talk about problem solving.
Yes. First of all, when we are teaching this transdisciplinary, it is very important for the student to understand that it is not about putting 3 or 4 different with a different discipline together in a team.
Right.
A person has to understand and be able to speak from a different point of view. If you are a computer scientist, this is the way you're approaching it. But if you put yourself in the position of say a chemistry engineer, then you see that differently. So you have to learn a multiple facet and integrate into yourself. It is not about putting 4 or 5 different people into a team, but a person had to understand and go beyond the discipline that they've been training into. That means they had to read more. That means the material had to design to focus on a different point of view and different way to solve problems.
I think this is part of the I think guideline for the future, because for example, people who are computer science, they take mostly computer science courses, then they might take a couple courses here and there. So in your career planning for students, what would you advise your student today if you're still teaching for beginning, say, master's degree program or even undergraduate when they come in? How would you tell them? They're computer science department, right? So how would you tell them to become a transdisciplinary?
That is a very tough question, but this is the way I solve it. Also, because of the chairman of the departments, I also the chair of the admission departments. And you will be surprised to see in my classes of 60 students, more than half of them, even it is in the school of computer science, more than half of them are not undergraduate majoring in computers. I do accept a student from a different discipline and integrate them in class. So let them people talk to each other. And that create a lot of question from the dean and from the university, because that's not the way we do business in the past. But since I have my own departments, that's my bargaining chips. And the dean said, okay, well, let you experiment with that and see what happened. And when the student graduate and achieve significant success, most of the students ace in the interview with a top company. And they come back and they told me that because they can solve problem multiple ways. And this is, to me, is that the beauty of transdiscipline is you can see a problem from a different angle, different point of view. Rather, the only way to solving it is using, say, machine learning or mathematics. But the student can say, if I look into this problem, I can do it this way. But if I look at the other problem, I can solve the other way. And that is really blow the interviews out high. Many of them, after the interview in school, came to my office and say, your students are different. And of course, we teach them differently. And I do believe that transdiscipline will be the key aspect of the 21st century, because the problems today are too complex to be solved by one discipline.
Well, thank you. I think many people are moving toward this view. For example, the notion of precision medicine now is sort of moving toward this joint, different doctors looking at the patient from the holistic point of view.
Yes.
But in terms of career planning, how would you suggest say a freshman computer science student to prepare her or his career in the future by taking different courses, and how do they link to each other?
Well, it is difficult to convince a student in the beginning, because the student in computers only thinking about, if I graduate with a degree, I got a job at Google and Facebook, and this is all I'm going to do. I explained to them that one of the key aspects of transdisciplinary is lifelong learning. You cannot learn and stop. And many students consider when they graduate from school, their learning stop because I have a degree. And I laugh about that. I say, let's look at Silicon Valley. Today, every company in Silicon Valley or in a tech industry hiring 10,000 or 20,000 a year. But many people never heard of the 10,000 or 20,000 being laid off because their skills are. And again, I've seen that. I visit those companies and talk to those companies, and I saw that what happened. I told my students that if you want to have a lifelong career and whatever you do, you have to become a lifelong learner. That means never stop learning. Using myself as an example, I laugh with my students and say, when I was in computer science, I learned Fortran and COBOL. And some students never heard of Fortran and COBOL, have no idea what it is all about. But today I'm teaching artificial intelligence. When this is 40 years in learning, never stop. I'm teaching AI and machine learning. When my background, when I study computer science, is all about COBOL and Fortran. And I explain to them, I say, today, if you are very proud of your Python skill, 5 years from now, maybe Python is obsolete. It is all about continue to learn, continue to thrive, and continue to, you have to learn nonstop. This is what life is all about. You learn many, many facets of life. You're not learning just one discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell this another story. A very, very good student of mine, a top student, went to work in a company, and he has a boss who is extremely smart, and he worshiped his boss. He told me that he never met a person like that, working very hard and so intelligent. And one day his boss had a heart attack and died. He was shocked, and he went into depressions. And after 6 months, he called me and he said, I don't know what to do with me. I don't know what to do with my life, because everything I want is I want to be just like my hero in that company. And now I started to see something. I say, because you only look at one aspect. You have to look at life from multiple aspects. We all die. But what can we do when our living? What can we do to make our life more meaningful than just making money? And that's, again, I asked a student to giving a lecture back in my class, and it made a lot of students move, because you cannot focus on just a single thing. Everything in life is impermanence, but everything it is permanent. Everything is solid. It is very well planned. Plan can always change. This is a way you want to giving them some dosage of reality and really explain to them that career planning is not just one way. Career planning is continue to learn and find your own interest. Maybe you are a computer scientist today and you're enjoying it. 5 years from now, maybe you change into something else. Maybe you want to get involved in something else. So again, it's the learning, the continuous learning will make you, really advance and be a lifelong learner. And that's what transdisciplinary is all about.
Well, perhaps you can answer one more question before I, there are quite a few questions from the chat. What's your view of STEM?
I think STEM is a lot of people talk about STEM, but I think there are one aspect of STEM that I think we have to add. We have science, technology, engineering, and math. We have to add art into it, STEAM, right? Because art has a high creativity, and we have to bring those creativity back into the scientific discipline. Engineers need creativity too. Where do they learn that? They learn it from artists. So you have artists and musicians coming in and lecture in my class and share with the student this all about. So, you musician, artists, they are highly creative. When a student in computer or math or engineer are focused mostly on formula and equation, but now they need to expand their horizon into something wonderful, teaching them about creativity, teaching them about artistry. So I think STEM has the value, but you have to also add art, music, and all the aspects into that, because science alone is not enough. Humans do not live with science, You have to open it up to other fields too.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that, because I also add A to the STEM. Here's a question from the audience. Will you be willing to talk to my kid who is in the 10th grade to find out and give ideas how his school can do better with online teaching?
I'll be glad to have another Zoom session with many parents. I don't think I would provide individual basis because I'm very busy, but we can have another sessions with multiple audience and parent and student about this approach. And I also encourage the parent to share this presentation and this talk with a student, because the role will change. From a parent point of view, I hope that many parents will spend more time with their children. I understand that we are all very busy. We all have a lot of other issues in every family. But I think when you have children, you cannot, I'm using the term outsource. You cannot delegate your education of your children to the school. And the school cannot do that. We have to work together. And in this 21st century, it's all about collaborations. Parents, student, teacher, we all have to work together on a regular basis, not in high school, not on PTA, not maybe once every 3 months or 6 months, parent come to school. Personally, that's too late. There's a lot of problem and there's a lot of issue today with the current school, especially public school, that I think parents have to get involved. And I always told the parent, education is your best investment for their children. Why you spend too much time watching the stock market go up and down and spending all the time reading all junk news from Facebook, when you can spend the quality time with your student, because that is your best investment.
Another question. What do you think about creativity in today's school system? It seems that everyone talks about creativity all the time. However, there is an interesting push and pull irony that schools are desiring it, but not provide the right environment for creativity to be fostered. how can we enhance the students' creativity level and help them?
Personally, I think in elementary school, the kids are very, very creative. But by the time they go to middle school and high school, the current education stifle it and prohibit it and forces the student had to conform with the memorization and facts and passing tests and high score. Therefore, you discourage a lot of students who have high creativity but may not fit into the current model. So really you have to focus on education, my view of education in total, not just a discipline. And we have to focus on the humanity of education, not just a scientist or just a professional. And I think we have to open it up. Regarding creativity, I think the problem today is we group students by age. We group students by test score. We're not grouping students by their learning approach, because some will learn faster and better than the others. So we label them slow learner. We label them this, we label them that. And that, it's 19th century educations. And I think we will have to change it.
Another question. During your talk, you emphasized the participation from students' parents in the education. I'm wondering how you would address the issues if students wouldn't have positive relationship within their family. For example, broken families, single parent. Could you please share some insight?
I think it is, I do not teach in high school, but I do invite some parents to come over and to talk about that difficulty raising kids in college. I have some students who are single parents. And I ask a student, say, if you can talk about your difficulty being a single parent to the class, you are, again, students say, well, you're teaching computer science and machine learning. Why do you have the student talk about these? I think I want you thinking in terms of a global aspect. I don't want you to be just a professional. So let's listen to one of your classmates, explain the difficulty of the single parents. We're not talking about blaming or we're not putting any judgments in here, but just hear the difficulty of being a single parent, raising a kid and go back to school. That is very, very brave, and it can be done. So again, I think the students are very smart. They know about these problems, okay? But they need to hear from their peer. Again, I always invite all of my students who have working experience 2 or 3 years to return to school. I pay for their travel. I ask them for a few hours, came back to talk to your friend, because students will listen to the other student experience rather than listen to professor or from someone with authority. So I think that can be done. So again, with some of the students, you can, I believe that we can invite some people came over and give you some talk. So again, we have a very short time frame today, but I hope that in the future, we can expand this kind of issue at a larger context.
Do you have any suggestions for students in elementary and middle schools? What is the best way parents could communicate and support their children at home during the pandemic?
Personally, I believe reading books is the best approach. And then allow the student to have freebie on cable TV. I know that many parents are very glad, because today, some of the company basically provide free on TV. And that's basically TV is just a babysitter. And I don't believe in it. I think that when you have young children, especially elementary school, reading the book with your children will be one of the key activities to learn and to find your child's own interests. Some younger kids prefer to read artist books, like to draw, like music. And some would be very serious, learn about science. So again, you can find your own children's interest by reading book to see what kind of book the kid like to read. and continue to read the book. And again, as I said, the role of the parent today is motivating and communicating. I mean, reading the book and talking to a kid is about communications and motivate the kid to learn more, to study more. And when the children are interested in some topic, they can learn themselves if you provide them the support by giving them more book. I think we had to, the using of computer can be a plus and a minus. If you don't pay attention, the kid can go to a video game and play all day. So they provide more book to the students, reading with the student and communicate with the student and motivating them. I think that's the right approach.
Another question, as time is getting short. I think transdisciplinary education is the only way to go for the future globally, since we have experienced the detrimental consequences of working in silo, such as fragmented healthcare system. From basic science to clinical practice, to technology, to policy, and lastly, to dissemination of information. Thanks for your vision. So this is not a question, this is the last, I guess, comment. And so our time is getting close. You have any final words to share with us?
Well, I think that first of all, Dr. Ye, I thank you very much for inviting me. And Dr. Chance, thank you very much for doing the translation. I hope that this is a beginning. And I think that in the future, we probably will have another forum strictly on transdisciplinary or some other interest aspect for the community. And I think that will opening up more discussion. We have only an hour, or a little bit more than an hour today. So I want to combine everything into this and share with you my experience. I start this one more than 10 years ago. But again, and I said, online is not about lecturing. I mean, using technology and using the same thing that you've been doing for many years. I think the future is the new approach to education, and technology will be the support. Online is just an extra thing that support the learning. It should not be a lecturing online, because I've seen today, I'm watching many online courses where the professor are basically lecturing to the screen, and I don't believe in that. Students don't need that kind of transferring knowledge. They can find the knowledge themselves. There are so many material they can learn online. But I think that the approach of working together, discussion, question, answer, and challenging question to make them think from a different point of view, that will be the key for the future of education.
Here's one comment. It seems that to make sense that your approach will work for tech workers. For those studying liberal arts and humanities, it seems a student can't wait to run back to classroom. Having taken many online courses, I don't think they are very effective. I feel I learn more and absorb more positive vibes inside Wheeler Hall with hundreds of my classmates, listening to my professor and risking embarrassment, asking questions in front of hundreds of other students.
Well, first of all, if you look at online learning is a lecturing online, then you are right. It is boring. And I don't do that. Secondly, you cannot be 100% online, because today, if you look at some Coursera and EDX, that was it. The professor from a very prestigious university standing in front of the class and have a 3 or 4 camera basically capturing the lecture. But to me, I don't agree with the approach. I think the online learning is about challenging, summarize some topic, giving some question to make the student think, and let them going out to find a solution on their own. And then when we come to class, we begin to discuss. Raising a question, give it to the student, let's say, solving this problem, and let the student have a week or two to find the solution and bring back to class and discuss. That, to me, is a new kind of online. So the video of the lecture is minimum rather than the whole capture, the whole lecturing. So again, as I clearly said that, the new education is not the same education system that using technology. Technology is only a supporting. Because personally, I don't think 1 hour or 45 minutes in class is good enough. I believe that that precious time should be used for discussion and question answer rather than lecturing. And with a student in non-science technology, they can be very creatively in class by collaboration and working on some real project.
Here's another sort of question. This transdisciplinary approach indeed becomes very important in today's problem solving, especially in the tech realm. What do you think of this approach's application to interfaith or interphilosophical discussions that help with students' spiritual or ethical cultivation as they're overwhelmed by information and incentive posed by our productivity-driven society?
I think that is a very interesting question. I do believe that's what interfaith is all about. Interfaith is about integrations and transdisciplinary. We try not to focus, because when you focus on one kind of domain, and then basically it divides people. You know, I'm a Catholic, I don't want to talk to a Buddhist. Or I'm a Buddhist, I don't want to talk to Protestants, so and so on. We are human beings here. So first, we have to be a human first. And to me, being a human is a look at everything from a very broad perspective. Don't label yourself, I'm a Chinese, or I'm a Thai, or French, I'm a US. Because when we start to do that, basically you already divide yourself. We live in a very small world that has a significant problem. And if we don't get along, thinking about global warming, thinking about all the crises we have in the past several months, it cannot be solved by one person. It cannot be solved by one company or by one country. We all have to work together to solve this kind of global problem and solve the problem for humanity, regardless what country you're from or regardless what religion you follow. We all have to thinking that the commonality for all of us, we are all humans, and we can work together, and we should work together.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Wu. I just want to make a comment that I'm very, very happy that transdisciplinary approach is now sort of sweeping the world. You know, the Chinese government just announced this year, the Academy of Science, that transdisciplinary research will be a top priority. And so is their National Science Foundation, which is about they're 5 years behind United States because US Academy of Science announced the importance of transdisciplinary research in a blue book called Convergence in 2014. And I'm one of the 5 people who helped to create a society 25 years ago, trying to do this. It was a long time, but very happy to see the emergence of this new trend is sweeping the world. So I don't think we have time for further questions, but in the chat box there are a lot of thanks to you, Professor Wu, for the exciting and talk this evening. And so I want to take this minute to represent every listener into this talk. Thank you very much. And we look forward to listen to your insight again soon.
Well, thank you, Dr. Yuen. And thank you, Dr. Chan, for translation. And thank you for everybody who listened to the talk. And I hope that this is only the beginning. And especially thanking for Dr. Ye for the transdisciplinary. I use a lot of material from your blue books.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I think this is end, and we're going to have to do the transference now.
Before we dedicate the merit, people see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, and John, thank you very much for such a wonderful talk. And I think you'll have, as you said, at another forum, talking about your approach. And we'll see how the time come up. And thank Dr. Ye for organizing this wonderful series of the forum. So, and next week, next Sunday, we are going to have a monthly pandemic update. It's going to be Dr. Wenbin Wang will give us an update. And after that, 2 weeks from today is going to be our Amita session. And very glad to let people know that the Reverend Shu will give a talk on Sunday, 2 weeks from today. He will also give another talk during the week. I'm trying to get him to talk one more, three talks in a week. We'll see. At least he's agreed to give 2 talks during that week. So these are the future talks. And I think we'll thank everybody's participation. We'll dedicate the merit to end today's meeting. So, Ellen, can you lead us to chant this dedication of merit?
Okay, Amitabha. May the merit from this practice adorn all the Buddha's lands, repay the kindness from above, rescue those in paths below. May all who see or hear all this resolve upon awakening, and when this body meets its end, be born together in the land of bliss.
Make 3 head bows. In respect, Venerable Master. Beautiful. Good night, everyone.